In this video, I will be discussing the planets in astrology, giving a brief overview. Now, in the subsequent videos in this series, I will be discussing each of the planets individually. However, in this video, I'm just going to be speaking about the groups that astrologers put the planets into. And these basically are three groups: the personal planets, the social planets, and the transpersonal or outer planets. The personal or inner planets in astrology are considered to be the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. These are the planets that are closest to Earth. They are the quickest movers, and they have the shortest cycles to make it around the entire zodiac. Astrologers consider the personal planets to be some of the most key components of the chart. They exert a profound impact and influence upon the individual. Personal planets speak of the individual's day-to-day life. These are the planets that influence, in particular, individuals' moods and habits on a daily basis. Personal planets speak of the key components of an individual's personality, their emotions, and how they interact with other people and with their environment and in general, with the world at large. The second group of planets are the social planets. These are considered to be Jupiter and Saturn. They are thought of as less personal, dealing with less personal matters than the inner planets. They have somewhat longer cycles, with Jupiter having a 12-year cycle and Saturn a 29 or 29 and a half year cycle. The social planet's sphere of influence is somewhere between being purely personal and otherworldly, like the domain of the outer planets. The social planets speak of the way the individual connects socially with the world. These planets speak of how the individual integrates into society and their role within the collective. And also it speaks of the ways in which society or the collective conditions the individual and starts to cause the individual to develop various patterns. The third and final group of planets is the transpersonal or outer planets. These are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. They are the farthest from Earth, the slowest movers, and they have the longest cycles around the zodiac. Due to their long cycles in an individual sign, these three planets are said to have a lot of influence on a generation and shifts between generations, because Uranus has an 84-year cycle, Neptune 165-year cycle, and Pluto close about a 248-year cycle. So they only stay. So I think Uranus stays within a sign for about 7 years or so. Neptune about roughly 12 to 14, and Pluto is a little quirky. It has, like, I think an erratic orbit and sort of elliptical, so it can spend anywhere from, I think, about 11 or 12 years in one sign to 32 years in a sign. and with a whole bunch of different anything in between kind of for the other signs. So these planets have an influence on the collective energies, on the collective as a whole, because obviously it probably feels different, as we just recently experienced a shift from even Pluto being in Capricorn for a number of years to now being in Aquarius. These are very different energies, and these energies are felt by the collective as a whole and result in what I just referred to as generational shifts in energy. Due to the fact that these planets are the planets of transformation of change and that they are relatively slow moving, this leads to what we refer to as slow cycles of collective change. These three planets are responsible and they aid in and facilitate long-term growth, both within the individual as well as within the collective and society as a whole. The transpersonal planets are considered by some astrologers to be the higher octaves of some of the personal planets. So Uranus is believed to be a higher octave of Mercury. So Mercury is considered to be the lower mind and Uranus the higher mind. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus, and Pluto the higher octave of the planet Mars. So traditional forms of astrology do not take into account the three outer or transpersonal planets. And one of the main reasons why this occurred is because when traditional astrology was developed, these three planets were not known of. And that's mainly because they are not visible with the naked eye. And it wasn't until the discovery of the telescope that they were discovered. So I believe that the planet Uranus was discovered sometime in the 1780s, Neptune sometime in the 1800s, and Pluto, I believe, was discovered in about 1930. Since the transpersonal planets are not visible with the naked eye, they are thought to represent also invisible parts of ourself, part of our spiritual nature. And it's also thought that they weren't discovered until the time that they were, because we were not at a point in our evolution where we were ready to consciously process and evolve and work with those parts of ourselves. So these three planets have very much to do with our spiritual consciousness and the development of our spiritual consciousness and our connection to our own higher selves and to God, to Source, and to the higher spiritual realms. So it really makes a difference the level of an individual's consciousness and awakening, whether they are really just operating from a consensus level of reality or a more individuated or spiritual consciousness as to how they perceive and work with these energies, both in themselves and in the collective at large. So these energies are very much so useful in one's own personal evolution as well as in the collective evolution, but they will express in different ways, especially if someone's not awakened, the energies will be coming to them more in an unconscious way, and they will not have available to them to utilize these energies in their spiritual and personal growth and development. So the more one raises one's level of consciousness, the more one can consciously work with these energies to come into spiritual alignment. And by that I mean they will then naturally be more in tune with their own higher self and with their truer self and with the energies that are coming from the spiritual realms. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto help the individual and the collective to embrace a larger reality. They help one to gain a wider and deeper perspective on themselves and of what one would consider reality as a whole. They help one to come into what I would say more of a unity consciousness. And as one becomes more conscious and aware, they become more aware of their own selves. They become more aware of their own personal and spiritual giftings. And with this awareness, they would then have the opportunity to better be able to share the, the best and the highest parts of themselves with others. Now, they will find personal fulfillment in this. However, they will also then be able to better contribute to the collective and the evolution of the planet as a whole.